Numbers.
I'm gonna hand this to you.
Oh, yes.
This is what we were supposed to do this week, but we haven't. I'll
Yeah.
see you next week.
Okay, good. It turns out my week was nuts, so
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is.
There's a little bit here, I'll start.
She's here.
Okay.
Oh, in light of this, Jeff, do we need to alter the agenda today?
No.
Or you just do not?
No.
We're gonna go through stuff, okay. Okay, today the Corporation of Harpers Ferry Budget and Finance Committee will be meeting today at May 4th, 2022 at 3:31 p.m. This is a special meeting, and this is live at Town Hall. Approval of the agenda?
Move to approve as submitted.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so first item, discussion only about the general budget, and discussion only about the general budget for fiscal year 2022 and fiscal 2023.
So simply after we're now past the third, we're into the fourth quarter, so we received the bulk of the taxes that we would have received for the third quarter. I'm gonna work towards revising the general fund for fiscal 22 and for 23. And based on what we've seen come in, I've spent some time in the last week chatting with various folks about the various projects that they were interested in for the coming year, and done some shifting and reprioritizing. And so in order to facilitate as much of those requests with reasonable expenses, I'm going to be looking to first address the water administrator, the funding for the professional services for the comprehensive plan, and the building renovation assessment, at least at the outset.
Town hall.
Right.
Yeah.
So as I work through those revisions, these are what I am focusing on, and I just want to make sure that you all are on the same page with those priorities, and with if you see anything else of concern that I should know about as I proceed.
Yeah, those do seem to be the red flag things, and just to be clear, that these are the items that are above and beyond what's already in there, that we need to try to find room for them.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And we do, we are still looking at a nice, healthy lump on our revenue streams for the final revision.
Okay.
But they're not what we were anticipating.
Okay.
When we created these last two iterations.
And I'm sorry if I've forgotten, but is at this point, do we know what first quarter is, or is it still going to be a while? Just on the B&O and.
Well, we'll exceed what we've already projected for fiscal 22.
Yes.
To the end of the year, we're going to exceed that.
Okay.
So this revision will project a greater number.
Okay.
And then as we work towards fiscal 23, we have to take a closer look at whether you want to bump that or not based on what we've learned now, but we do have some more data now. So yeah, we don't, but it's not what we thought. It's not going to come at the pace that we thought.
Right.
So,
It's not, okay, great, the pinata is broken and
Right.
we all get our treats.
Right.
So,
Okay.
And I would add just that another priority is we must always keep in mind that we're trying to find the funding for an administrator for the
That's
water
the
That's-
number
facility.
one priority that I mentioned.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
It's in there. So just to reiterate, it's the water administrator, infrastructure administrator, comprehensive plan, and the town hall assessment. So not the actual construction, because we don't really know what we need yet.
But we need to figure out whether we can go anywhere from here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that.
All right, that's done. Okay, I want to go back to the beginning. I made some more comments I should have said prior to the
I
meeting
thought you
started.
had me on staring awful fast.
Yeah. You'd like to
I'm
be.
so excited about fiscal year 22 and 23.
this is the part we read? No, we read until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry Governing Delivered Bodies will hold its meetings and/or hearings virtually via Zoom webinar, which provides for the public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch by YouTube or listen by telephone. These options comply with the West Virginia Open Governmental Meetings Act. And I also want to note who's in the meeting today: Deb Kelly, our financial officer; Laurel Drake, town council; Storm Canzanzo with tongue twister.
You're getting better.
Town council, myself, Christian Petrikonis, and we have guests, Pat Morris and Karen Sagisi, who will be speaking shortly. All right, just want to get that done. I'm a little rusty from being out of the country for those few weeks. Number 2, discussion only. This is about the status of the ARPA funds.
Right, really quick, I just wanted to update you that I have gone ahead and completed the first reporting to the federal government on the ARPA funds, simply saying that we have obligated our funds, but we have not expended them, and that's all.
Awesome.
Okay.
We've received the first one, but not the second one, right?
Right, the second one will come in the summer, but when I do the reporting, just for informational purposes, they consider the entire amount, so, and we've obligated the entire amount to the one project.
And we've earmarked the project money
Yep.
for the Elk Run.
That's right, exactly, yeah, and I made a description of that, why we were doing it, et cetera, that's all been done.
All right.
Once I
There ain't
understood
no
what,
public hearings on this one. It's
we're done, yeah.
simple. Okay. Number 3, discussion and action regarding the town's cyber insurance policy.
So as you all are aware, our cyber insurance policy did increase, although it is reasonable, it's not out of reason. However, I did ask if there were things that we could do to possibly improve the rate of our policy. There are some things with regard to multi-factor authentication that anytime you're logging in with email from an outside source, you would use your phone as an authenticator. You have a phone, you go through a little registration process. It's not really hard. You can get a talk with advantage, really not any expense, but an hour or so of Tyler's time, and that's simple. There's also another piece where if anybody's using a laptop that comes in through the firewall to access desktop, which would be, working with Koozie from home or something like that. There's also an extra step there. And while we don't use that very often, I think it makes sense for him to go ahead and proceed and get that done.
So is that basically an encryption standard that you need to adhere to?
It's all, no, it's really, well, we already have a lot of encryption standards in that process, but it's basically multi-factor authentication, again, with that, they just call it something different because of that.
Got it, for remote work.
And he's gonna have to get in touch with the county and yada yada, but it's about an hour of his work, and it's a small thing. If we can go back and say we've done these, we may not get a reduction in our rate. The other option was to increase what they call our retention, which I didn't really understand what that word meant, but basically it's our deductible. And our deductible is 10, and the next level would be 25,000. So I said, I think we'll probably sit, unless anyone says, oh no, let's do that. But I don't know that we necessarily have to take action, but we might want to move that we put in those security features, but otherwise stay with the retention level, or we can discuss the administrative.
Yeah, I think it is worth doing, because that type of security is critical.
Yep,
So,
absolutely, right.
oh gosh, I move to recommend town council.
Okay, I don't know that we necessarily even have to do all that. I mean,
Oh,
it's pretty
okay.
much administrative.
Okay,
You've taken care of the billing, and I'll just proceed with enacting those things that are well under the budget of what we would, the expense that we need to
great.
do
I'll
to
just
get
make
to
a note
save
that
money.
we,
Right, and just
you
report
said-
to town council that we're taking some steps that will hopefully improve our policy.
And those steps are to add this two-step authentication to get into any email.
So when you are at home, or when if anybody who's out, when you log in, you're gonna have to have your phone with you. There's gonna text you,
Right.
and you're gonna have to give it a code.
And I can
Yes.
help any council members set that up, like, once you kind of
Well,
get it.
are you
it's not-
saying, apparently Advantage would set this up, right,
Yep.
for everybody?
Yep, and they have a form that you can use to follow, da-da-da-da.
I wonder also, there's something I see on the school email, which is that if it comes in from the outside, there's a little banner that says this is external, this came in externally, instead of from inside the school system.
I think we get that sometimes, don't
We
we?
get that
Yeah,
from the Park Service.
yeah.
A lot of times from the
Oh.
Park Service.
So, I mean, that's a
Well-
very good thing to have, because it makes me take another look at it. If I thought it came from inside, like some from finance or from payroll or something, but it says external, it's an extra signal, an extra clue to me that, no, this did not come from payroll, this did not come from the home office, this is some outside thing looking like it was.
Right, okay, I'll inquire about that, and that might help us with some of those things that look like they're invoices,
Yeah.
but they're really not, and,
But is that among the things that were among the things that could reduce our rates?
I don't know, no, they didn't mention that.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm glad we're doing two-step authentication. That is a good thing to do.
All right,
There's one more thing, Sam, where it's slightly off the topic, but it's email. And it has to do with, like, today I got a lot of communication from BZA and from Landmarks, but it was on my Gmail. I am on Landmarks, but I wasn't on town council at the time, so I get all my communication through Gmail. Like today, I was like looking for it through my Microsoft town account, and I forgot it was Gmail, and I'm just wondering.
so are you saying that the BZA distribution email has your Gmail?
It does, and I know I can get them to change it, but my thing is, what about, they're not, I guess we're all employees, so we have the town website, town email, but our members of our committees do not.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have personal emails, they're all using various email
But
systems.
they're not on our devices using them, and they're not interfacing with our network, so.
Right, it's not a security hazard, but it
Right.
is something that we should
Well,
probably address.
but if there's winging documents around and stuff like that, I've got BZA is not on the town.
Well, BZA does have an email address, bza@harpersferry.com, and we have a distribution list, so all the members fall into that. So if anybody sends an email to BZA, they all get it. Problem is, if one person responds, it only goes to the original email sender, and it comes from your email address. So your email address is out there. So we did it with BZA as a trial. I know Landmarks was hoping to get it, and planning was hoping to get it. We have to get licenses for when they come in a bundle.
This is actually something that may be covered under one of our later discussion topics.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not part of security or, it's tangential. but-
I think I hear what Christian's saying, I'll just check on it, but with Laurel's second idea, it's not something that the insurance company said if you do these things.
Right.
So I'll check and see if there's
Okay.
anything else covering that, yeah.
I don't want to take much time on it. Okay. All right. That's 3. Done. All right. Parks and Rec. Here we go. Okay. Discussion action regarding the landscaping improvements for town parks.
Right, and I should have said something that really didn't fall under Parks and Rec, that fell into me working here with the mayor on this project.
Okay.
But I just left it alone because it's out of line.
Okay.
So this all started back in maybe January, where I went and took photographs of our critical parks, and I contacted 4. One, 2, 3. I contacted 3, and a 4th one contacted me because he heard I was looking for somebody. And I only got the bid from the one contractor. And what we did is we went to each park. And it was this park over here on Franklin Street. It was the children's park, the gazebo, and then down on Potomac Street, these areas. And then we also discussed, the stairwell, and we discussed all of the electrical boxes in Potomac, and what could we do to kind of have that. So what the gentleman that I worked with came, walked all these parks with me, he sent us a proposal, which I hope you got. I sent it to Christian.
I remember seeing it.
I don't know if I.
I have it, and I didn't think to see if you guys needed it again. But what he did was he bid
Yes,
on
I
3
did
of
have
the
it.
projects, not all of them.
Yes.
He gave me a bid to help clean up Franklin Street, gazebo. Said that he wouldn't touch the children's park.
Nor the stairway.
Staircase area, he said no, they would not. He said, good luck getting anybody, because getting equipment in there is gonna be tough.
Yeah.
I did put another call into him to beg him, do you think you could just do a one-off, but they're still not interested. And then we talked about disguising the electrical.
So there's the 3 bids that are in there.
Well, the 3 bids, one is Franklin Street, one is gazebo, one is Potomac Street.
Got it.
When it came to the electrical boxes, he said he couldn't landscape around it. Then we had the idea of calling a fence company to see if we get either a little wrought iron fence around it. And I called 2 fencing companies. One went down, came back and took pictures and said, stickers everywhere that says, do not block this within 10 feet. So, he did not feel comfortable in even looking at it or hearing us a bit.
And I'm sorry, do you know if who owns the boxes?
Those are the, I
Electrical
believe those
company?
are the Park Service.
Okay.
Are they the Park Service?
Well, I thought that was on their land. But
They're
they're,
on
no,
sidewalks.
you know who they are? They're the utilities.
Yeah, they're the
Sorry, they're the
Yeah,
utilities.
they're
It's
utilities.
Potomac
Okay.
Edison.
So I was
And I have a contact at Potomac Edison, so.
where I was going was like, is it possible to paint them? You see that in some towns where they make them look nice.
There's various, I
Well,
have some,
Christian came up with some great ideas that he shared with me the other day, so I won't steal his thunder. I'll let him talk about that. So that is not in today's proposals. It is just Franklin Street, gazebo, and then down on Potomac.
Got it.
And that's where these came in, and it's really to go in and clean up, mulch, trim, edge, all the mulch areas, and then do some actual landscaping. And in the plantings, unfortunately, in this bid, he did not give me the list of materials, which I did ask for, and he said he would supply them, but I haven't gotten it yet.
But it's plenty of things and materials, not hardscaping, so it's,
It's just to make it pretty. The fountain, an update on the fountain, I was working with Cornerstone on that, and the solar powered fountain is not gonna work. So we had electric brought to the site, and Cornerstone is getting a new fountain for us, and hopefully next week that'll be up and running.
cool.
We're gonna put it on a timer so that it goes on at 7, goes off at 7. Because we're gonna have to kind of monitor it to make sure it doesn't run dry. We could burn up the motor.
Yes.
So
And that's
So
a new
the
fountain pump, not the fountain itself that they're getting.
no, the fountain's already there.
No, that's what I'm saying. So they're getting a new fountain pump, not a new
Correct.
fountain. Okay.
So then on this part here down by your house, Storm, what they're proposing is to clean out the brush here. And they wanted to know quite how far back they could go, but do some nice mulching and landscaping and then putting in how about small trees.
Yeah, I know, just from looking at the plats, that the property line, if you look where there's that signpost at the bottom of the stairs, that is where, that's more or less where the property line is. So if you trace straight across.
Yeah. And then in the center area, their recommendation was stone, just pull it all out and put stone in there.
Yes.
So now, if I can go back to where I can find this.
So you're talking about, because Christian and I had talked about
River
this.
Rock.
River.
Oh, on the inside.
So that's
Yeah.
that's park number 3.
That's park number 3. And at first, I saw that price down by park number 3, and I'm like, oh my God, but that's the total of all.
Right, it looks to me like park number 3 is $4,010 based on the total and the other 2 breakouts. And park,
Yes.
can you say, I'm so sorry, what was park number 1 and park number
Park
2?
number 1 is Franklin Street right
Okay,
here,
thanks.
and that total came to $29.60. Park number 2 is gazebo,
Okay,
that came to $27.40. Potomac Street,
Oh, they didn't total it.
yeah, they didn't total it.
It's gonna
Potomac
be
Street came to
4,010.
Yeah, subtract them, yeah.
4,010 for a total of $9,710. Now, the reason why I asked him to bid it out individually is because you could select, well, let's do this one, but not do that one.
Right.
But let's come back and do something else here. The downside is if you would like to approve this up to that dollar amount, pending getting the list of materials that will be used, you can go.
And he doesn't mention any plant material or trees in park number 3, but you were
Right.
talking about trees.
Right, and I called him on that, sent him an email.
So, and I think that you said in the beginning that you did request 3 bids, but you only got this one.
Yes.
And you have, and do you have just any kind of documentation that had some, just in your file? That says that, thank you.
And
Okay.
was it among the 3 that you reached out to, or was the bidder the person who?
No, ironically, somebody here was getting their hair done at a hairdresser and kind of mentioned they're looking for a landscape.
So that's the
He
one
said,
who
"Oh, my
bid.
brother's in the business," and he called me.
He was the only one who,
Wow.
Yeah, and he's the only one that came, very professional, came with one of his associates, he used to work for R&L Landscaping. So he would also be interested if we wanted him to do the mowing, but I said, no, this is just a one-time, let's get this cleaned up, for the spring, but we're already in May. So, and then I did tell him that it wouldn't be, we wouldn't get back to him until the second week of May, and then they'll have to schedule it, so we're looking into May, hopefully before Memorial Day.
Deb, where does this fall in the policy?
yeah, that's what I was just looking at, so verbals are okay?
You keep talking, I just, a side note, we still need to replace that dogwood that went down.
I know,
And that would be in addition to this, because I don't think he has that, I really think we need it. You remember the one there,
at the gazebo, I thought tree committee was dealing with it, so I stayed away, I didn't know if they wanted us to take care of it or not. It's a fine line.
okay.
So it's bid level B, and it's a minimum of 3 verbals, and she has documented that she did not get response from 2, so I think we're okay.
Well, I did talk to R&L, and I was actually looking for somebody that had a landscape architect, that was my first question. They want a landscape architect, and everybody that said they have them, well, they all quit, and COVID, and it was rough.
They're hard to get.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
Is that what the 3 that bounced, is that why?
That's why R&L bounced, they said no, they did give me an hourly rate to come out and design something for us, and then we would own the designs, and then we could decide if we wanted to hire them or not.
Right.
That's as far as I got with them.
Got it.
Cornerstone did some bidding for us last fall, and we were very disappointed in what we received
Okay.
for the money. So I didn't really press them.
Yep.
I talked to Wildwood Landscaping, they're in Round Hill, Virginia, and he was supposed to come out, and he never did.
Yeah, it's far.
Cornerstone do our snowball?
They did our stuff.
yeah.
And I tried to get somebody to come out for the town, your guy, and I couldn't,
Oh, for landscaping? Oh, yeah.
and I just couldn't get him out.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, so.
It's hard.
Yeah, I want to just ask about just something to be considered here, because I'm sure this person is very professional and has much knowledge about his craft, but is it under consideration to ask the person, our town maintenance person, to do this work, or to do part of this work? So that it would, I mean, for instance, mulching, cleaning up and mulching is something that seems like anybody could do. Is it under consideration to simply offer some of this work, or to part of his duties?
Workload issue.
Workload issue.
Yeah. We only have so many hours for Larry.
Yeah, Larry is the maintenance department.
I know.
I mean, if we had 2, possibly, but we
We had 2
don't have
people,
2.
right.
And, I mean, I want to go out there and start working on it, but,
Right.
so,
We have some projects coming this year, and town beautification, we'll hear more about that later. Also, we're working on the mailbox consolidation. Larry's gonna be involved in both of those projects pretty heavily. We need more of his skill level for that, rather than.
Right, this kind of freshen up,
Stuff.
so it'll look nice and
Yeah.
kind of be
But
primed
it's a
for the
good-
season.
It's a very good point you bring up,
Yes.
and he has done it, but I can
His
tell you,
first
he's
year
pretty
here, he
overloaded.
did, and then I
Yeah.
think he just kind of got on overload.
I think he didn't realize how much there was.
There's a lot of mowing.
Because I've seen him bring mulch out there. I've seen him do that, in the past.
Yeah.
He's done all that. Okay, thank you.
I'm just generally curious, is there an inventory of the town's parks?
On paper, probably not. Probably not.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
good
kind
idea.
of like we do with historic landmarks.
Yeah.
Just to be like, hey,
And the children's park, I really want to start focusing on that. That needs a lot of work. And,
I agree, totally.
so,
back to the matter at hand.
yes.
Um,
But this is a fresh cleanup. This is the gateway into town, especially this corner and the gazebo. And the Potomac Street. I mean, those are three key pieces that really need to be sharp, and they're not.
The Potomac Street is being underutilized, not that I want them crowding down the end of your street, but people can't see the picnic benches
Yeah.
because of all the,
Oh, no, I think it'd be a tremendous improvement, and in
Yeah.
general, like, I've had landscaping done, this is consistent with what I've seen. I mean, we're sort of deliberating before we actually have the motion. But
but I'm just saying why Potomac is important. It was a great idea they had, but it just, with the current foliage that's there. it's
people
blocking.
do regularly use those benches, like,
Yeah.
they do, and despite the vegetation that hangs
Because
over.
when I go down there, I don't see anybody, but.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about various things for that island. And this contractor says, you're gonna have trucks jump in, cars
Yes.
jump in.
He's right.
You're gonna have, you put flowers in the trees, and, well, I've heard you can't put a tree in there because they put a lot of debris from the project in there and then covered it up.
And I'll tell you, the deer ate the loriope.
Yeah.
Watch
So
them.
his comment was, you put down a barrier, you put the rock in, you're done.
I agree.
We did also talk, however, we want to put some little marker or monument or something in memory of Don
Don Campbell.
Campbell for his contribution to that area.
By the way, I do a lot of landscaping myself personally. I can tell you these prices, I mean, we don't have a motion, but they seem very reasonable.
Yes.
I would say it sounds good, but I would need to be on the scene. I need to go and see what they're proposing to do and what, we're getting a general description, but I don't know, if I voted for something today, I would not really be able to evaluate the scope of work. And,
Well,
because this is the first day I've heard it.
in general, like the way, I'm starting to draft a motion that we authorize up to a certain amount, and then whomever is handling it, we trust that they're going to be vetting that and getting the best value for the town. If it turns out they're like, yeah, we're gonna, put in a few annuals and that's it, then we're not gonna pay that full amount. So, but if we don't authorize an amount that could accomplish the job, then they need to come back to us and.
But I don't really know what the job is. I need to actually go to the park and to see, like for me, the gazebo park is already really good looking. I don't actually
No, it's
know
not.
what
It's
it
not.
is that you feel like.
If
What-
you're there, it's utilization. I mean, there's spots where you can't walk, there's spots where it's spotty grass. You could use a lot of improvement.
All of the mulch beds need to be dug down.
Yeah.
You need to have them defined. You need to have a nice mulch. It needs to be cleaned up. It's not that way anymore. If you go, you can see it's all coming down. You can see the tarp stuff that they put underneath it. And it's really, and it's weather, it's seasons that deteriorate all of this work, and then you just have to build it back up. The Women's Club used to maintain the Franklin Street Park, and it was always beautiful. But the ladies right now just don't have the capacity to continue that.
Right.
And so therefore we took it back because it is, the focal point when you come into town. I also had driven through a housing development over there in Ranson. I think it's called Briar Run one weekend. And I made my son stop the car, and I took pictures of this yard that was pristine. And there was a sign in the yard, and it said, lawns by Louie or something. So I took a picture of it, and I called Louie. And I wanted to talk to him about, hey, could you come see me? I want this at these parks. And I never heard from him, but ironically, this other guy called me that very same day. And so I was a little confused, and then he says, no, my sister turned me on. Oh, okay. So, and I showed him those pictures that I'd taken on my phone. I said, this is what I want. And then we went and walked through the parks. And then I also asked him, before we approve this, he has to give me some references and some ideas of some of their work. I don't think we'll have a problem with it. And I hear he's pretty highly recommended from the people that I'm hearing from about him. I don't know. I've never
Well,
worked with him before.
obviously, I have not evaluated the way you have, and I would say you have a far better knowledge and understanding of this than I do. I guess this is just the first day I've heard this. I would rather go and look at it and see what you're talking about, and
Well, with this gentleman, when he came with his associate, he asked all the right questions. I mean, they were very professional.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve up to $10,000 for Grants Landscaping to perform landscaping at 3 town parks. From, I do not know which fund.
I just wanna make sure if we're gonna take that out of, arts and humanities beautification,
Yes.
I just want to give you, so I would say that, so put that in there, 906.
906, Arts and Humanities beautification. Is there a second?
Well, I was thinking you could add on to that, maybe mention to the 3 parks, names, Franklin, the gazebo park, and the
And Lower Potomac Street.
Yeah, just, I want people to
No, it doesn't.
know what we're spending the money on.
The parks are Franklin Street, Town Hall, Gazebo Park, and Lower Potomac Street.
Second that,
And now we can have further discussion.
any discussion?
I think we should wait and postpone it to another meeting. This is the first time we've been presented with this. There's time to go and look and see what they did, what it is that need to be done, and to have a deeper understanding of what we're funding, because $10,000 is a lot of money. And that's my opinion, is to put it up.
Personally, I'm comfortable because I've had a bit of landscaping done, including from some of the companies that were under consideration. I feel like it is in line with what we're getting. It's a fairly large amount of area, and I trust that when it's implemented, that if the plants that are put in are not, do not merit the cost, that the full amount will not be expended. So I'm comfortable at this point, and I don't feel it's to me, it's not a particularly complex project, and I have a lot of experience doing it. So I feel like it's a good thing to do, right? And also that if we did not do it now, it's like with plantings in particular, you get into the hotter part of the year, the chances of those plantings succeeding decreases, the maintenance of getting them up and running increases. So there's time pressure.
Yeah, the planning has to be done soon, and so like, when would the next meeting be? When is the next
You'd be
meeting?
delaying this a whole month, that's,
This has to go to town council.
right, town council has to approve this.
Let's see, we're
So if
trying
we
to-
miss this meeting, then we're talking the next meeting, and then when you're going to get one of these people in line, they start getting busy, you have to get in front of them and you have to block dates and times.
Well, let me ask,
Landscaping is like critical at this, it's high season and we gotta get them while we can.
well, let me ask you a question. So when Cornerstone came in and did Franklin Park, did they get the complete amount of money for what they did?
Yeah.
What happened on that? Because you said you were not happy with what
That's
they
right.
did.
And I met with them and I told them, and I said, come back and do better. They came back, but they didn't do better. I never paid the full bill.
How were you able to give less? And did they
Because
object?
they understood how they let us down. And they understood, and I brought them over, and I said, this is not what we discussed.
So what percentage was cut from the amount?
I have to go look at it.
So it's at least half.
They just did a very poor job.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's good to hear that the iron fist does not open if they don't come up with what you want.
I mean, right now, we're still fooling around with the fountain,
Uh-huh.
and they had to scrap it and get another one. And I said, well, because you sat on it for so long under your desk for 9 months, I bet you can't return it. And she said, no, I can't, we have to return it. No one called.
If you'd like, I'll tell you where we are with our committee.
Yes, please.
We budgeted for fiscal 22, 92,000, now that includes our reserve, so, okay. The actual budgeted expenditures were to be around 35,000. We had expended 20,327 to date. So, and this was not part of the original budget request. And I guess just looking at things that are forecasted that could possibly happen between now and the end of this fiscal year, you're probably looking at extending another 5,000 to 7,000.
Okay, so it may tip over a little bit.
Well, you're actually
No, I
you'd
think you're
still be
right.
under the 35.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'd still be under the 35 you had anticipated spending.
Got it.
Yeah.
There's just, first of all, we have tour season picking up rapidly. So I think these parks are very visible, so I don't think we have much time to delay. Second, I'm a gardener, and if it gets hot, plants die. I mean, we just wasted our money, so we have to get them in the ground as soon as possible. And I think that these numbers are in line, and I also think we have a check with Patty, who's on top of this and making sure that we're not just writing them a check and then they do it. She's
Well, I want
examining
to
the-
say that based on what she just said, I feel a lot better about it now.
Okay.
Because I'm glad that you are, that you're ready to say what it is you want and whether they did what you want. That is, that's so essential to the job. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Deb, anything else? Do you want to call a motion?
Yeah,
Or call
I
it.
move to,
Vote, yeah, the vote, yeah.
and all those in favor? Okay, motion carries.
Now, also ask that you make a notation that we evaluated the bidders and the non-bidders and assess that.
Yes.
It was justified to go with this single bidder,
Yes, let me make a note of that.
and then I just need that for the minutes, that's all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
here
you.
we go.
Yes, Steph.
4B, and by the way, we have a hard stop at 5:15 today, because we have a BZA meeting at 5:30
Okay.
in this very spot, so we've got to get
All right,
moving.
rocking on.
All right, that's an hour and 15, we should be able to do this. Okay, 4B, discussion action regarding the music on the ridge under the Parks and Rec Committee. And so Patty will.
Yeah, if you want to come to the table or there is fine too.
I'm good.
I think your voices are projecting just fine.
Great.
And the microphones are close.
So basically, we sent in a request to earmark up to $4,500 that we had budgeted. This is the approved budget, and that was 2021, because we're still there. 21-22, sorry, 21-22, and this still falls under that fiscal year. And so that was in the approved budget from the prior. We put in to request up to that amount of funding. We are going to have more of a soft opening this time because we haven't had this in 2 years due to COVID. So we are getting, we're still negotiating with 4 different acts. They're more acoustic type, no big bands. There'll be no food offered, there'll be no beer, wine thing. It's just come enjoy the music, bring your own picnic. We are it will be advertised, no alcoholic beverages, no pets, and so the money, the big part of the budget is the musicians. I have a feeling that we will be way under what we have initially earmarked for that. We will only write checks for the money that gets, for the expenses. We won't just say, give us $4,500 and we're gonna run with it. Do that. So vans are the biggest expense. The stage rental is a larger expense. Porta potties, not much. Advertising is a good one. What else? A lot of the items we already have on hand because we purchased tables and tents over the years. So we have all that equipment. The only rental equipment would be the stage.
A lot of miscellaneous things, like we wanted to spray down certain areas to reduce the gnats and mosquitoes, so people can enjoy it. Just warding off the area. Another idea that I had was, it's not gonna be an expense to us, is kind of like a fold out kind of a sign. And I've invited local businesses to send us either a menu or specials of that day so we can post them so that anybody visiting can visualize them. And so a lot of the stuff we want to do is really not costing anything per se when we're doing those type of things. But
What's the process for, you're just gonna go to the businesses, kind of down the line and just check?
I have a letter. I have a form letter. It's on the town hall. And I've gone into some of the businesses up here and talked to them. If they were interested, they were very interested. So I was waiting till this meeting happens, and then I have more. I wanted to physically actually walk down, introduce myself, and invite them to submit this. They can either bring it here to town hall, they can send it to me electronically, and I will print it out in color for them. And it's just something to, people are aware. They're like, 3 to 7. It's a great time to break out and go to dinner. Let's send them locally.
And then we do notify any event that we do that does affect the street. The residents along that way get a letter. You've gotten plenty from me when we've done events at the gazebo.
Mhm.
So they'll all get a letter. The only street that will be closed is Gilbert. And that'll be pedestrian traffic only. We do have fence. The area will be fenced off. So we will try to contain everybody to the town property. It may spill over into the Fleming's yard. They've given permission and they said they'll be happy to sign a waiver. They are also going to supply the electric for the
What about the Swan property next door?
Well, last time we did it, I thought there was more of a tree line. I went up and looked at it again last week. I thought there was more of a tree line. And everybody kind of stayed away. We did put the fence down a ways, but not all the way. And now I've noticed she's got a really nice chairs and a fire pit that they're looking at the river. So I will talk to her and try to, we can fence it. Well, last time she came, she had a party at her house, but they all came over, paid their $10, stayed for a few minutes, and then went back and enjoyed it from her yard. So, which I appreciated. They didn't have to do that, but they did. And so everybody pretty much stayed contained.
And the waivers is something that's been used in years past, been cleared by the town attorney?
We actually have not really gotten a waiver, I don't think. It was just all verbal, but I know verbal doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So.
So that's, and also with insurance, and thank you, by the way, because we didn't have much information at the earmark stage, which is why we're asking more questions. But with the insurance in particular, the answer to it's covered.
Well, maybe we could get a waiver from the insurance company.
We should probably talk with Ann just about what the process is, because we also, the money that we, through COVID, there was a question about that, and I think we needed to advise them that we're doing events again and that kind of thing. So let's make a phone call to her and see what needs to be done.
Okay, so that's for confirming that there will be insurance coverage.
Right, and if there's anything that we need to do with regard to waivers, if they have any formatting or any advice for us on that. And otherwise, if there is something, we can send it to legal if we need to. Maybe I don't understand what the waivers are.
Well, because you're dealing with an event that is being held by the public money, and it is going to be in part on private property.
So you want a waiver for the property there?
If something happens on the private property, it could be the person who had the incident, it can be, I've done a lot of events.
Right, so are you talking about a certificate of additional insured, or what are you talking about?
No, but maybe
I don't
Ken
know.
Sarah might have
They might know,
something
okay.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
that would be generic
Okay, so we'll get
enough
that sorted.
to do. Yeah.
To the two property owners? Is
I
that-
guess we should do it to, well, and actually across the street too, because unfortunately that house is right on the side, right on the
Kathy
road.
and Brian's place.
And Kathy and Brian's
And
four,
maybe
the four neighbors.
Okay, so we'll
The
talk about-
Bishops.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah. Because the fence will come across the road. If you go up Gilbert on the left, Gilbert, it'll go across there so that cars can't come through. So Laurel and the Grays will be kind of outside the little zone, because then we'll put the tent across, and then you have to come through the big top to get there. And then in prior years, we also fenced off past the Flemings, but we don't have to do that this year. That's taken care of for us. So, because we
Right.
couldn't have people come in that way, we needed them to come in through the venue.
Okay, so any private property, assuming it clears insurance and legal review, will have the consent of whomever the property is.
Yeah, I think there's probably two, well, possibly three. I don't think the Grays.
And then will tickets be charged for the event?
Yes.
Okay, and what will be the process for doing that?
$10 the door, and then banded, we have the options of cash, and I think we have a square,
Mhm.
so people can
Debit
have a
card.
square to get debit card.
Now, even though the funds are coming from the town, the proceeds will then go into Parks and Rec's account for future events and or projects. It's not being reimbursed. It's going into Parks and Rec.
Right, I saw that from the prior event. There wasn't really a profit per
No,
se.
no,
But
and if we break even, we're happy. I mean,
Yeah.
even at the beer events, I mean, by the time we paid for the glasses and everything, the bands and everything, if we broke even, we were happy.
Because what we do with that is if something spontaneous comes up, like Patty got notification right around September 11th that the firefighters were coming through on that cross country, and they were going to be coming through here, and we went ahead and we took care of getting them a breakfast bag and doing. And it doesn't sound like much, but that's where that funding went to, these spontaneous things that pop up that we're not anticipating. But as a town and a tourist attraction, you know, we want to have that presence, and that's one of the things we wanted those firefighters to feel welcome. We wanted that to be something memorable for them coming through here. So that's one of the reasons we put it back in there and having that fund. We don't have a problem accounting for what we do with it. We're really happy to do that. It's just a matter of having those funds to be able to say, Patty calls me and go, guess what's happening? Let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and boom, it is done. So,
oh yeah, and
yeah.
I personally don't believe, like, you know, especially since part of this, part of the justification of the event is that it is both for town people and it is for attracting those from outside of town. Do you know what the event venue capacity is?
That's a good question. We're also wondering about, Patty and I were talking about COVID too. Numbers are coming back up. That's one of the concerns that we had was, should we do some spacing? And if we have to do some spacing, looking at numbers at the time, do we have to stop it at so many people? These are things that we're thinking about that we've just been talking about the last couple of days. So these are things we have to take into consideration, and we're not quite sure where to proceed with those while we're watching the numbers.
Yeah, and we have to determine all of this, the funding, this COVID question, logistics, before we start the advertising, but we've got to get the advertising out of the gate as soon as possible,
Yeah,
because
if we're
we're
gonna be-
losing time. So, but we haven't done it yet because we're waiting.
And it's one of these things where,
We have to wait.
well, no, it's not that. It's too, you know, you're engaging a band and they're reserving a day, and we
Sure.
respect that as too. So, you know, we're good either way. I mean, if we need to push something, move something, we're okay with that for public safety and for making sure that everybody involved, like the bands, are okay with that, because we really wanted somebody local, low key, give them, you know, somebody that has a good reputation, but also give them an audience. So keeping it really kind of local to highlight, you know, some of the local artists and things like that. So we're really trying to consider those type of things.
And to where it's being promoted and advertised, if you mentioned Facebook, like will you be doing targeted type ads, just think, how's this going to attract people in?
Well, we talked about newspapers and we decided that's an antiquated thing to do. So mainly social media. We will get a couple of posters made and get those up as well.
The newspaper has a free part in there, isn't it? Those events, I got
Yeah.
sure.
I don't If
That's
it's
great, we
free,
can do that.
if it's free, I'll do it, but if it's
Yeah,
not
let's
cost,
check it out, yeah.
I guess, on that question, I'm checking the box of some of this funding is coming from, to Parks and Rec, and I'm sorry, the other category that funding is drawing from.
Well, originally, this event was planned to have some funding from economic development as well
Economic
as arts and humanities. That was the original plan in 2021-22, which is the year we are in.
I think it should be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that if we are reaching outside, to try to bring people in that are not from the community, then that falls under that.
So I'll just say that you may want to just, there's been, you know, it is a music event, which is artistic. In the past, some of the other members of council and budget finance have been more precise in dividing up things like stage versus in the porta potties, and only pay the musicians that have arts and humanities. Another way to look at that is it is an event, it's a festival, it's, so, you know, you have to decide if you feel like that's supported enough through 906 in those parameters. If you want to keep it all coming out of economic development, or you just want it to all come
How
out.
did we have it, last year you said we had it split both ways?
In fiscal 22, it's split as,
906 arts and humanities and 402 economic development, and that's why I wrote it the way I did, is
So,
because that's how
20
we always ask, that's how we always ask for it.
2250 out of arts and humanities and 2250 out of conservation.
Yeah, like,
Seems reasonable.
well, you know, I feel like, that it is, I would agree with the festival idea, that it's more about that than about the elements within it. And I was asking the question about economic development, that I feel like the bar for that is that it's something that is not just like, you know, like something we are doing just for the community, but it's something for economic development. And if we are reaching out beyond, and we expect, and that's why I was asking about venue capacity, like if we are promoting this and we are expecting people coming outside of the town, if the venue capacity is suitable to that, and also the parking.
Yeah, we're not gonna do like heavy advertising. We're gonna do about the amount of advertising we do for like the, you know, the Easter egg hunt and things like that. People coming in town that frequent us are going to see this. What our thought process was, we were think tanking in the future. Patty had this great idea of a backdrop behind the bands, this becoming our kind of mark. Next year, we move it to where, you know, we have a different spot, a little bit bigger venue. We can actually get to the point where this becomes a yearly music festival. People expect it. We got t-shirts, the whole 9 yards.
And that's sort of where mine goes with that.
Yes.
Mine goes, you know, Jim Jenkinson talking about doing like a environmental festival over at the Nash Farm. And that would obviously require coordinating with the park, but someplace where we don't have to worry about these things, the risk, the legal risk, the insurance, and all the rest.
We did want a band from Frederick, and they did play at the Oktoberfest. They had a fantastic following. They drew a huge crowd, and unfortunately they weren't available. So a lot of these bands have their networks. They played at the barn, they played over at the brewery over here. They're very networky into the county. So we're counting on them as well to get this out for us.
Are you looking for more than one band?
Yeah.
We have 4 already.
And you already have 4, okay.
And you feel that it's a good variety back, so it'll appeal to wide range of people.
Are you ready to do the motion?
Sure. Oh, I didn't prepare.
And what was the date of the
I
event?
can.
June 4th, Saturday, June 4th.
June 4th, okay.
I'd have done it, but you always have them ready, so I'm like.
I'll do double duty today, so yeah.
You did the agenda.
So I thought we were trading, so this time I did the agenda and you did the.
Oh. So we get them on the road.
I got this one more time.
Yeah.
Too many tabs open. I'm sorry, Deb, what were the, 2250 from,
It's 50/50, yeah, 906 is 2250, and
402.
402, 422.
and you said it would be in June, is that correct?
June 4th.
It's creeping up fast. So you have a lot of loose ends to tie up and get out
Yeah, it
there.
is, it's that.
Yeah. We've been working on this, but to a
Okay.
point where we're on hold and stuff.
I'm gonna talk this through before I actually make the motion, just so we don't do that dance. That we're approving 2250, or recommending to approve 2250 from 906 and 2250 from Marks and Rennie's 402. Told music on the Ridge on June 4th, 2022, pending legal and insurance review. Is there anything else that needs to be on it?
So, say the accounts again?
906 Arts and Humanities, 402 Economic
Yes.
Development. Okay. Is there anything else?
No, I think it's
Laurel, that we go? Okay. I move to recommend to town council to approve 2250 from 906 Arts and Humanities and 402 Economic Development to hold Music on the Ridge on June 4th, 2022, pending legal and insurance review.
Second it. Discussion? Further discussion? See that on hearing, all those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we'll wait till after Monday,
And-
then it goes to town council before we
Oh, yeah, no, for
do
sure.
anything else.
You know, we
Yeah.
make the recommendation.
Right.
And then discussion on C, we still want to visit on this?
Oh, yeah, just briefly, in advance of the next request, we can just get some of the more details ahead of time, and that way, you know, we don't have to rush it towards the end.
Sure.
Our plans in the fall are when you have free time, whatever that may look like, picking your brain maybe at Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
For helping us planning some.
absolutely,
events.
it's literally my career.
Yeah, that's what.
That's what I
pick
was
your
saying.
brain.
These are
So,
good
yes.
questions. I said, he's an event planner, great
Yeah.
questions.
And that's
so-
why I asked the questions I do, because I know a lot
Sure.
about it, and
Yep.
the things that can go wrong.
Okay.
And I was a market research manager at General Motors, so did research for that.
And then, help me understand, I know in February, we submitted our budget request for the new fiscal year, and you're still working on that, right? You guys haven't finalized that, have you? Because we have heard, I don't think we've heard anything.
Oh.
No, you haven't, we're very behind.
Okay, that's okay, I just wanted to know, I was thinking, maybe I missed something,
No, you didn't.
maybe
I
I
have
missed a memo or
projects.
something, and so,
But I will emphasize, especially for the new events that we're on, if we could get information ahead of time.
Absolutely.
oh, absolutely, yeah, some of these are new to us too, and we're just kind of.
Yeah, of course,
plodding along.
and we don't expect, at the earliest phase for the details to be locked down, but just to have a general sense, especially for the new stuff.
One of our agendas for this year is to get all that planning guru out of Patty's head and your head and have something that we checklist through each time so that it's a little more seamless.
And for sure, like I literally had to ask Deb today, what the full string is on how it goes from the earmark all the way through.
Mhm.
And like starting to codify that stuff, but that's actually another topic.
I mean, once the budget for the new fiscal year is approved and whatever funds are allocated, I think we were looking for a roadmap. How do you
Yeah.
want us to, what do you want?
Exactly what you want, and
So we
it's gonna
can-
help us planning as
I will
well,
say,
so.
if you look at what the Park Association sent in for Old Time Christmas, and what the Chamber Music Festival sent in, like, those are pretty good models, level detail.
Well, they'll be on the website, right, under the different meetings and how
I
we
can
do?
send them to you if they're not. That is literally another topic, is the organization of information for the town, but I can send them to you.
Okay, that would be very helpful. All right,
Okay, well,
thank you,
thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Hope to see you all there on the board.
Yep.
And then we're planning the 4th of July too, but not the Lions Club and Town Hall. Well, no, Parks and Rec. We're doing 4th of July.
Okay, next item, number 5, discussion action about the online payment and other technology compliance.
So, printed state auditor's office by March 1st of 2023, which is less than a year from now. We are going to be required to offer a system with an online presence for acceptance of payments that will allow persons to submit to political subdivisions electronically. Payments shall be accepted through the required system and shall include but not be limited to payments for fees, payments or fees for services provided by this political subdivision, or fee, fine, penalty, or other monetary payment collected by the subdivision. So that means taxes, taxes, room occupancy taxes, all of our payments that we get for water, the deposits, licenses. We are going to need to have a portal provided to be able to secure those payments and let people go online and make them, which brings to the table our website, because our website is not capable of doing that, and brings forth another expense and hot topic item, which is our website. And so the state has a group that they are working with to allow us to enact this, and I haven't just call the guy and say, okay, what does this really mean? Are we able to say, make your payment here, and it takes you somewhere else to something that's secure that makes that happen? But the reason that I'm bringing it to you is that, number one, we have this deadline looming in front of us, and number two, we really need to figure out where we're going with our website and start considering that for next year.
Is this a state requirement then?
Yep.
And what's the date we need to have it done by?
March 1st, 2023.
So right now, like the water bills, if you want to pay your water bill with a credit card, it sends you off to another website which charges a fee and keeps the fee. That's how it does it. So we have that option, right? We have that option.
Yeah.
Well, if we have that option for the town as well. That we don't have it now, but we could have it.
Yeah.
That is an that's what I'm trying to
Yes.
say, is it's a possible option
Yes.
for the town
Yes.
to do the same thing.
Right.
Or, as you say, get our own website to be a portal.
Yeah, I really think we need to have a group, a committee on this website. It really needs
I
a lot of
agree.
work.
It's a huge undertaking, but one that, for not just security reasons, but for facilitating everything that town hall and the council does, to be able to just submit documents securely and easily, can cut down the amount of paperwork that's required when people submit things, that they don't have to literally download a thing and fax it,
Right.
all this stuff. And then also to have a division of services between for visitors, you can go over here, for in the town.
Yeah, it's not a consumer friendly, it's just getting old, it's clunky.
Well, and, I guess the question is, given the timing of this, and just the general urgency anyway, would this be something that would have to come out or be a revision to the 2023 budget to go above and beyond, or is this something that
it
would push to
depends.
24?
It's something that, I think it depends on how.
I think it's gonna be expensive.
I mean, the payment part alone might not be, because, like Laura was saying, and, we may be able to just say, here's where you paid, and you can send somewhere else to pay. But it depends on what you want to do. I mean, those what you can get somebody, or it depends on who you get and what you want to do, and it can be a relatively small amount or a really, really big amount, and it's a trick trying to get the right company because of what we are. We are complicated, but we are small.
Well, there are, I'm sure there are, either regionally or certainly in the adjacent counties that are absolutely one of the biggest tech hubs in the world, that we can find folks that
Oh, there's a lot out there.
that are specialized in smaller governments and would have examples of maybe already have off-the-shelf things that they could do that we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, we need an RFP to go, we need, what do we want? I
Right.
think that's the hard part for our town,
Yep.
is what do we want this thing to do?
It's like a survey to see what do other folks do, what are all the possibilities, so we can choose what is good for our town.
And then at that point, then we can almost do something on Bid Express or something, I mean.
Yep.
Yes, in fact, that's exactly that platform. Well, I know, it's, we, if we're like, hey, build us a website, we're gonna get a million responses, but there could be a way that we do it where we narrow it, where we can
Yes.
have a simple point system to, get it down to a reasonable number that we can end at. There are ways to do it. But I
Yes.
agree that the first step is probably to, I don't know if we formally do this, we want to recommend to town council that we form this committee and then get that ball rolling.
I think so, I mean, it's not on the agenda, but I think that for town council on Monday, but I do think it's something that,
So that's
Sorry.
part, like Christian, when you address town council, so
Right.
just say,
Yeah.
hey, we
We're
took a
thinking
straw
about this,
poll
we'd
and
like
said,
to-
Start thinking about it, let's
Right.
hash out some ideas, I think, with
Right.
the whole council.
and
I don't
with
think
it,
we
and
need to
then,
formally vote on it, if you just have it in the notes for.
right.
I'll just talk
Put it in
about
the
it.
notes, and then you can have, if you wanna make an ad hoc committee, you can do that in June.
All right, next, no action on that item at this time. Number 6, discussion and action about the employee longevity incentive program.
So Storm and I were gonna look into that, neither one of us have been able to get on that, on our target, so it will be, we'll have to come up with something for the end of May meeting, the regular meeting for budget and finance, so it can come to council for the 6th, for the June meeting, because it has to be enacted by July 1.
And what is that?
It is a program that encourages longevity of employment, and it came up as a topic in lieu of holiday monetary gifts. And so this would be money that is paid as an ongoing program, and you get paid a certain amount of money for how many years that you've been here, as long as you've been here already a certain number of years.
And I'll let you get that there are very strict legal boundaries and definitions of how you can do these type of incentives. So the whole thing was that the ethics office, I think it was, it really frowned on doing, say, gift cards, like the opportunities for a throughout process exist. This program was designed not as a holiday incentive, but as a way to foster.
When you say it was designed, who designed it?
So there are various programs in place, the state has it all over, teachers get it, all the state has a program. There's also a program that Charlestown has, and I think there's a program that Shepherdstown has, and we have copies of those, and so we're going to examine them and come up with something that's seemed to work for us.
It's
Yeah.
scaled to us.
It's to reward our employees, but it's really an incentive to have them stay in employment.
Oh, yeah, no, I understood that, I understood the purpose of it then.
So,
You know, the levy money for the teachers gets split up over the year. You don't get it on a regular basis. In fact, I have not received the very last part of it, which is coming May 17th. So they very much incentivize staying through the year, because the biggest amount comes right before Christmas. If you don't stay that long, you don't get that. So it does keep you through the year, because there's always another part of that levy money waiting out.
So you feel like you have the general gist, this is gonna come up in more detail once we bring it to give it its due attention.
all right, put that one off. Okay, number 7, discussion and action for procuring audit services for fiscal year 2019 and 2020.
So basically, we've received from the state auditor's office the request for proposal, that's just a fill in the blank thing about, what years are being audited and what level of audit we need, and we got our directive from them. So I'm basically just letting you know that I'm gonna go through the process of sending out those bid requests. And then we will receive them back and have to evaluate them, and the state auditor's office has provided a certain scoring technique that we will use. So, I have a list of, excuse me, I have a list of, CPA firms that the state has, approved. One of the things I've heard is the hardest part is getting people to actually say they'll do the audit. I've gotten a bead on a couple that seems like maybe they actually will respond. That's usually been the problem that I've had. I send it out to a whole bunch of them and they just don't respond.
Yeah.
So, I will, unless you wanna go through here and like pick them, I'll just randomly take a handful, send them out. If I don't get responses, I will send again.
Yeah.
But my intention would be to, look at the calendar, start that bid going for our meeting is gonna be what, the 31st?
31st, that's why I wanted to verify. 31st, I'll be there.
Well,
31st is our final
So I would I'll try to have the bid results back by the
The
31st.
31st of
May. We have a
May.
regular meeting, this is a special meeting today.
And let me just make sure that complies
So,
with,
the very first will be the regular meeting.
That's a Tuesday. That's the Tuesday.
That'll get us in front of the June council meeting.
Mhm.
so I think that works with the dates that I've been given by the state auditor's office. So double check. I can go with that, and if I find out, I just got a call from them, so if I find out that I'm wrong, I will let you know. We're probably gonna end up having a special meeting anyway, but
Yeah, now we have to secure an auditor, and yeah, there's just, I think there's a lot of grants out there, but there's more need for it right now, so.
I think we have to the end of June, so and like I said, I'll confirm with that phone call that I have, but let's say that we'll have the we'll have the evaluations ready for the regular meeting, so that we can move the auditor and get that going.
Okay. All right. Now, waterworks, and related infrastructure. Item A, discussion action regarding the Alps One water main pending legal and engineering review.
Alrighty, all right,
That set it up. Today I was at the meeting at 1:45.
so we did have a review with, Boy and Chris Ackenroad. Christian, sat in on that, the mayor sat in on that. I had Adele from, Infotech join, because I worked with her yesterday morning and she helped me iron out a lot of things. We still had a lot of questions, and she just knew so much about the options that were available. So she joined us, and that worked really well. I think they were very uncomfortable in the beginning, but I think that we got through it, and I think we've got a path forward of what Boy wants to see in hand versus what is able to come electronically.
Got it.
But we will need to make our posting in the paper. So since the town council meeting's on Monday, we won't be able to get the bid live until the following Wednesday, which is the 11th. So we will, and they want to run it for 3 weeks, so that's 18th. So we'll run it until the 8th. Close it on the platform on the 8th, and probably official opening on the 9th.
It's June.
Yes. So, but they were, fine with it once we got through it all, yeah, so we've got some fine tuning to do, Adele and I do, but I think we're on the right path. So we'll post it, we'll put it in the paper, GDNF will also put a link to it on their website, we'll have a link to it on our website.
I'm sorry, what was the date when you expect it to go into the paper?
Into the paper on the 16th, to note that it's opening that it's going live on the 18th. And then it will close on the platform on the 8th. And the plan right now would be that we open the bids on the 9th. I want to confirm that date with Hoy and Chris Ackerman, that that's okay for them.
Yeah. let's get it out there. I'm curious what the solution is for being able to review it off platform.
Well, I can print out everything
Oh.
that they submit.
Okay.
Yeah, it just comes, and it comes out, when they actually submit it, it comes out as a really nice document.
Huh.
But and so that'll be printed out,
Right.
and then he really wanted a hard copy of the bid bond, and he wanted the actual bid bond
Oh,
with the signature, and he wanted an actual copy of the pricing with signature, even though the platform's gonna calculate it, he still wants it with signature.
with the one signature.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And this is all very, when we were talking with Adele, she said, every body has
Yeah,
it's a transition time, and so and Roy was delighted to hear that, DOH, West Virginia DOH uses this, and Christian just
Oh,
pulled up
they
something
use
on
the
Bid
Bid
Express, yeah, and you won't believe that they've been around for 44 years, yeah, anyway. But I know, but anyway, so we could see it as the meeting went on, that the comfort level was better. Yeah. So eventually, as time goes on, but they were okay with the notarization
Yes,
through the verified ID, which I did.
yes.
They were okay with that as an element. So anyway, okay, that's that.
Do we need to do any action on it?
Well, you can recommend, yeah, you should probably, because now you've all three seen it. And it has gone through legal and engineering review, and they are happy with it as long as it is executed as we have discussed.
As long as what?
As the changes are made to it as we discussed
Oh,
today.
okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So, what were the changes that came about? I mean, not every single detail, but I mean, in general, was there anything that you wanna bring up?
It's really
that were-
detailed.
It's detailed, and it was Hoy that brought them up.
Yeah, and
Legal issues, so that it wasn't so much doing the bid now, it's like if there's issues later on. So he's always thinking about having proper
I mean,
documents signed.
right, for the most part, it's detail of how things are presented, and there were some things that, could be taken out, and some things that needed to be left in and modified. So that's just a tremendous amount of detail that I couldn't begin to get into, but the big things are, he wants hard copy of the bid bond at the opening. He wants the actual bid bond, and we're not gonna do an electronic bid bond. And, he wants a hard copy of the price sheet signed.
And so what was the reason why we have to do it in the paper?
It's legal.
Just
Legal, it has
because?
to be in the newspaper.
Yeah, that Hoy said that he,
It's
The paper of record.
And so did we do the last one in the newspaper? And,
but this is a slightly different dollar amount,
okay,
but this is what Hoy's recommendation is.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
So is it as simple as, that we would be recommending to town council of putting the Elks Run water main RFP out for bid, because the wood legal
Yeah.
engineering time?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah.
I move to recommend to town council putting the Elks Run water main RFP out for bid.
I will second that.
All those in favor? Or discussion, further discussion? All those in favor? She's gonna do a little, few more little details on it, and tweaks, that's the word. That's it. Yeah, we can move ahead, I felt very comfortable
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. This has been a very large
It's
process.
and it's, once we get this over, it will be so much easier as we go
Right,
forward,
because
because
this
all the
isn't
little
just about
components.
Elks Run, it's
Yeah,
about
It's
learning how
about
to do this
everything going
process.
forward, yeah,
And what'll happen is all we'll do is just change the wording out of
Yeah.
the Elks Run, and we'll put in
something else, yeah,
Fillmore Street, Maine, and that's
Right.
all. So this is the hard part.
Yeah.
What we saw the first time we did it with the tank, or whatever those
Sludge.
sludge tanks, how well it worked and how we got really good
Great
bids.
results.
And that first time was just kind of fell apart. And the second time we did it with Bid Express, or the first time with Bid Express, it was awesome.
Yeah, well, you and the town have both grown a new limb from it, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay, next next item here, discussion, item B, discussion action regarding the administration of the waterworks and related infrastructure.
So I'm trying to think if I can formulate this without, I don't know that we necessarily need executive session as a position. So, given the projected income that given the refinement of the projected income that we anticipate on the general fund side and the scope and dollar amount on the items that have priority, and given the need for the position, given the various and sundry things that are coming at us over the next 3 years that will change how, or define how we deal with the variables that we have in front of us. So water infrastructure, in another year, we will know, are we gonna get some funding from the government for that or not? In the meantime, we may have emergencies to address and we still have to save money to be able to make a matching grant fund or fund things as time goes on. Given that the hotel is going to start building over the next year, and we may see some increased income from that in the next calendar year, and that they're projecting 2024, I think publicly they've said, to open. That would also generate more general fund revenue, and it would generate water revenue. So also given that in the next 3 years, we may have a more standard, not a more standard, a more precise handle on what's going to happen with sidewalk renovation, stormwater renovation. One of the concerns about fully funding that position from waterworks is eroding the base that is required to save to either contribute to the infrastructure or to contribute to the matching grant. However, with a finite term on how much we spend out of that period, it seems more acceptable to the accounting firm to split that position's wages at a 50-50 rate commitment for 3 years.
That's 50-50 between waterworks and general fund.
Right. Meaning that over the next 3 years, there would not be coming out of like water, it would be under $75,000-$80,000 total committed to that position with a $40,000 salary. That making it finite like that is helpful to them in that they don't feel like it's eroding all the way as time goes on with a salary that's increasing. And so, you see what I mean?
Is it fair to summarize that basically at our current state, taking on a full position would be excessively risky, but we may be able to accomplish the goal of this position by not having it be an actual town position, but something that has a finite term of 3 years?
Right, and not necessarily, and by 3 years, what I'm saying is right now making a commitment to it for 3 years. That doesn't mean that in 3 years, you wouldn't reevaluate your needs all the way around. You might say, oh, this is working really well here and we really need more for this person where they are. Or by then we've developed systems that make that situation require less, but we might need them somewhere else. Or maybe this isn't the type of person that we need anymore, right? Maybe we need something different. So what I'm trying, doesn't mean that it might not, I'm not saying that it has to evaporate in 3 years, but I'm saying that committing to it for 3 years in that capacity makes it cleaner to the accounting firm to be able to say it's not going to continually erode at that money that we need to be accruing to pay.
So you're
our
getting,
portion of what we need to pay.
pushback from the accountants
Yeah.
about taking that on, and this was something that came up as a way
This is
to
a,
potentially
So
solve.
this came from the accounting office,
well, this is an idea that I came up with, and I've run it past that. As I said, what if we made it a finite 3 years? And we didn't say, and at the end of 3 years, we're gonna reevaluate how it's working and what we need. And in 3 years, I would hope that we'd have been able to make a lot of progress administratively on the water side and know better what we need out of that position. And also, if that position can be further supported, if there's a further need in the general fund side, other than what's initially asked of them, that might dovetail with the stormwater and everything else that's going on.
And here's the other thing, the way I see it too, this is a part-time position, but maybe after 3 years, maybe it's a full-time position.
Maybe it is.
And maybe it's a regular position in the town, you know?
And so that way, if all these revenues come through, then we can fund it properly.
Right,
In-
but
in
3 years is when we're
years,
gonna be in the sweet
Our
spot.
tableau is gonna be so different.
right.
And all of these variables that are unknowns that keep like having high priority and keep coming up but are also warning flags, where you wanna save your money to be able to do them, they will all be resolved in 3 years.
So is this, well, I think it's a great idea, but, so is this something that the accounting firm feels that can be funded at 50% for each fund?
So what I've done so far is I have worked up the revision to the fiscal 22 water budget, and I worked up a proposed 23 water budget, and I reviewed that with them. And now that I have Chris Steyer, I still have to meet with him about a couple things, but I think we're pretty good. And as long as that doesn't change drastically after I talk to him, that needs to go to the Water Commission, it needs to go to Town Council for approval. The other side of the equation is the general fund.
Right.
So the next step after I get Elk Run done is to get onto the general fund and do fiscal 22 and 23 and revise it to allow for that. That also has to be approved. Once you have both of those approved, then you can advertise for your position.
And where did the 50% come, when you did the water budget for this, where did the 50% salary come from to pay that part?
So it's not coming from anywhere in particular, but the salaries right now, so I guess that it's not, the other thing I forgot to say, I'm sorry, there's so many moving parts of this. The other thing that I forgot about in the water budget that I discussed with Cox Holiday is that we have this need and commitment to build up this money to be able to deal with this infrastructure in whatever manner it is that we're gonna be dealing with it. And so I have implemented on the water budget a line that is capital infrastructure fund. And Charlie is gonna work with me to set a target number that we wanna be hitting every year to be putting in there, so that we're sure that we're fulfilling what we need to do to either deal with the loan or deal with doing the work.
So like if this, earmark that we're hoping to get falls through, we'll still have funds that we can.
Start, and we'll accumulate, and it'll go into another bank account, and then when it gets high enough that we can do a part of the project that we need to do, then we're gonna do it, right? And if it doesn't, that money's gonna be used to pay, if we get the congressionally directed funds, then that money would be used to pay the loan or the down payment.
Hence the
amount.
3-year thing, so
Right.
by then we'll certainly know that.
That's right.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that I built into the budget a line item that targets that, so that, because we need to have a target number on there that we hit every year. And
I'm sorry, it's called capital infrastructure?
capital infrastructure fund
Okay, and does that live, which budget? does
in the
that
water budget. And there is a more proper name that the PSC would use, but that's what we're gonna call it because that's how we use it. Okay, so what I said to them was, could you be agreeable that within the next 3 years, if we were not able to get our target hit on the capital fund, and we didn't have enough room in our wages as was set up by the plant operation already, if we had to use some of the soft costs for those 3 years, the soft cost reimbursement just for those 3 years, to finance this person to get the water system under control? Could you be agreeable to that amount only being consumed by that, not any amount that goes on forever? So that would be worst case scenario. What I predict happening, and this is another thing that makes this decision so hard right now in this moment that we are in, is that our wages are kind of way higher than they'll ever be because of what we're going through. And we don't know what they're going to become. In another 6 to 8 months, we're gonna have a completely different operating environment where we're not gonna be putting out fires every other day, et cetera, et cetera. So when I take the wages that are being consumed in the end of this year and the first several months of next year, and I make them what a normal wage year looks like with normal overtime and without temporary people and yada yada, there's a big difference. And so the first year, we might end up having to chunk at that a little bit, but I would anticipate this off cost, to fund this person. But I would anticipate that our costs are gonna come under control enough that that amount of money would be there each year that wouldn't erode anywhere else. So
I think all that makes a lot of sense. I'm just wondering, where did you find the money to fund the 50%?
Well, this is what she's saying, is that from the waterworks side, it's a combination of the contingencies. There are a lot of places it could come from that the accountants, correct me if I'm not summing it correctly, but that the soft cost from the loan could be used to draw down from that.
If needed.
And that if needed, and also anticipating that there will be cost savings when the new plant is up and running. Like basically, it's not like there is a single place where it comes from, but in this calculus of where there is flexibility to be able to
Right.
cover it if need be.
Right.
We should
So when
have
you
less
make-
crisis at the plant.
right,
We should have, that plant should be easier to run. It better
Right.
be for the amount of money
Right.
we're spending on that.
right.
So that's where it's all gonna come in.
I mean, and it's all a guessing game. I mean, you don't know for sure, but if you say, okay, this is what it looks like now, what do we think's not gonna happen in a normal year? When you pull all that out, you're like, okay, there might be some room there. And what I said is, if there's not room, if I'm wrong, and there's not room, is it financially responsible enough for us to say, we might have to use some of that money
So an analogy.
to deal with this situation?
So an analogy is you basically, you have a hand of cards that you can play, and depending on how it goes, you play some or the others, and you feel like you have a pretty good variety of
Right.
options that depending on how things go.
Right.
If this one turns out better, you don't need to play that one, if this is worse, then.
Right. The other thing that makes this agreeable and viable is a 3-year finite plan to it with some serious reevaluation at that point. And I'll tell you that this first year, 23, based on what I'm projecting, whatever that target number comes out to be for the savings, we won't make it. I'm sure we won't, because of how much we're dealing with in labor and other costs that we did not have in a normal year because of this being such an unusual time.
So, I appreciate your work on this, very much so, and, so now what's the timeline of getting this to get going? What would you say is the timeline?
First thing I have to do is finish the Elks Run bit. That's got to get finalized and get out the door. The very next thing that I will do after I get my feet under me is work on the general fund budgets. Then those two budgets, your water budget is gonna need a special meeting by your water people. You could probably do that. Don't hold me to this because I can't remember when Chris said he was gonna be able to meet with me. He might be able to do it at the end of next week. And then general fund is gonna have to meet again within a week or so to approve their budget. You guys are gonna wanna look at it too, so you can do it back to back. And then, once both of those budgets are approved, you would have a in that town council meeting where you approve both of those budgets, you would also approve this posting going out. So I'm gonna say, within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Try not to.
And then, once the budget's approved, we could, basically,
Probably in the June meeting.
advertise.
Well, if I'm pushing it, if you were able
Maybe
to,
July, maybe.
it would be a lot better for me if we were targeting getting all of that approved in the June meeting. That would work in my life a lot better,
Because
but
then it would
I
fall
can,
in our calendar year, or fiscal year.
but I know that there's
But there's still,
desire to have it earlier, so
I mean, there still would take time to interview.
Of
No
course.
one's gonna be hired before June 1st. Right? But,
But it sounds like there's a solid path for doing it, which is pretty big.
do you think we'd be able to advertise before June 1st with the way we're talking?
if everything happens the way and things go very smoothly, yes. But
Did the town council vote this position? I'm trying to remember now. Because I remember the water commission made a recommendation, but I don't remember.
If it was done with the old council,
Yeah, I
but
remember.
I don't
just to
remember.
pursue it, I
Just to
think
pursue it,
the
but we
idea.
never got any numbers or anything like
Okay,
that.
so.
The concept, it was the
So
concept.
that approval, we also need to put that on that meeting in 2
Yeah,
weeks.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly right, yeah.
Okay.
And
Got it, I got it, okay.
I'm suggesting 2 weeks. I will do my best. I will have to report back to you next week. Once I get Elks Run done, that is the big thing right now.
Okay. Well, I just couldn't be happier with that.
Good.
And I really appreciate you working
For
that.
your hard work.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say about this is I would strongly suggest as you build this 3-year thing, I think it's nice that it has this 3-year, that in each of the years, you ask for certain things. The first year, we want SOPs everywhere.
Right, so
You know,
there's the
second
levels
year,
for
we
year
want
one.
whatever, employee, whatever you wanna talk about, evaluations or how, all that, have those target things nailed down, so we get to the end of it and we see, do we have a system, what do we need from the system now?
Okay.
Well, that would be good for your group to work on.
Oh,
And
definitely.
we know most of the work is gonna be directed towards the water department, we know that, but
There will
as
be
time goes
some
on,
things that
hopefully
get,
there'll be
yeah,
way
there
more
will
work
be
in the
some
town.
things
And then we'll
not
know,
to, right,
probably in 2 years, we will know, like, kind of where this position will need to deploy. And then hopefully if things fall the way we hope they do, to find it in a way that we can really be
And I'll
effective.
also say as a final note that it doesn't mean that over the 3-year time, should funds in either area be better to support the situation, we can't change it. But for right now, what I agreed with was, what I suggested was 50-50 for the 3 years.
So how do we even characterize this?
Well, I don't think we should do anything.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to do anything. I think the budgets will drive it.
Okay,
And then, once the budgets are approved, then in that, like she said, in the same meeting, you're
all
gonna
right,
have.
because this isn't the variance, this is.
Right, then you'll have the numbers in front of you that are approved that then say, okay, we can hire this
Got it.
person now.
Yeah, I think it would be premature. And the other thing, I think we should start thinking about a title, I'm not sure, I would like to, instead of tying into waterworks now all the time, we talk about an infrastructure administrator, or, something that can help us maybe with stormwater and
Yes.
all these
I like the
grants.
infrastructure administrator, because it's broad enough that
Okay.
whatever we need to do.
I just wanna get off the old,
Okay, I think that's a good idea, yeah. Alright, we got a clock ticking.
yeah, you got a few minutes, okay, we got one. Next, okay, so we're okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right, last item before we close. C, water plant temporary additional compensation for a single membrane operation.
We,
May require executive session.
yeah, if it's not,
I don't know anything about it, so.
yeah, if it's talking about compensation for specific people, then it does need to. I don't have the executive
I mean,
session.
we have to do it.
Oh, where did all the executive session paperwork go?
Hang on.
Right behind you,
Oh, I have it too, okay, so.
to your left,
Okay.
To the left. Oh, yeah.
69A-4.
Mary?
Oh, no, yeah, go ahead.
I move move to executive session, regarding matters arising from appointment, 6-9A-4, A, matters arising from appointment, employment, retirement, promotion, transfer, demotion, discipline, resignation, discharge, dismissal, or compensation of public officer, employee, or prospective public officer, employee, until the public officer, employee requests are meeting.
I second.
All in favor, discussion, all in favor?
Hang on. Okay. Good
I was
luck.
here,
Now-
so.
Okay,
I think you
last
did.
point, the water plant temporary additional compensation for single member operation. We are out of executive session and we need more information on that, so we will be postponing decision on this until our next regular meeting at the end of the month. All right, and with that, I move to end our meeting at 5:26.
Second,
All those in favor?